Hey, sports fans. We're back another week. Cookie and Kev Sports Show, all WNY Radio. It doesn't happen very often, but if you feel the urge to finally call in this week, you can hit us up here at 716. Let us know how you feel about everything that took place yesterday in the sporting world. And as we are going to start off with our beloved Buffalo Bills. Come on, Bills. It's okay, guys. It's only week 4, so I'm not too upset. I'm not too sad. If you caught me on the radio yesterday, if there was some way I was able to come here directly from the Ralph in my state that I was in at that point in time, I probably would have gotten banned from internet radio for all the obscenities and horrible things I probably would have said. Kevin can probably vouch for the things that would have came out of my mouth. But besides that, not really much, to really hate on. It was a rough go at things. Horrible, horrible, horrible. 24-10. We got to play better football than that. If we want to be a playoff team, which we've been dying to be for the last 15 years, we have to win these games. Home games against the NFC. Granted, yes, the NFC in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter that much to us because we would only really have to see him in the Super Bowl, but that's thinking pretty far ahead. But Kev Diddy, I don't think I can hear you. I don't know if I got Kev Diddy here with me. So while we work on technical difficulties, I'll do what I do best and just talk. Here's our lovely host of hosting us.
I think I'm back, guys.
Oh, there we go. There's Kev Diddy.
Hey, another week here in the saddle next to my boy Cookie. Call up 716-402-4218. All Western New York radio. Yeah, honestly, a terrible game. There was a lot of downs, and then there was a lot of downs, and, not very many, I guess good things happened.
There was one up, Kev Diddy.
Tell me that.
And that was flags in the air.
Yeah,
there were a lot of flags up in the air. But, downs, like you said.
Very much. I guess we'll get into things here. I don't think it's a devastating loss by any means. I think it's a lesson to be learned, and it's early in the season. And like you said, it's an NFC opponent. It's one that you would like to have back when we think in week 15, week 16, when we're in a race to get that last wild card spot. Which one of those games should we have, maybe come away with a victory? And, I think this is the one that everybody's going to be pointing to. It started off just anemic on the offensive side. Really a poor game by both offenses. And everybody's talking about how bad the defense played, but in actuality, they kept us in the game. And in the third quarter, the Giants had nothing going on. Obviously those 2 drives by Tyrod that ended in, 2 negated touchdowns, a Dan Carpenter missed field goal, and, trying to stuff it in from 4th and 2 when actually not trying to stuff it in, throwing a swing pass. Questionable play calling, conservative play calling, and, a defense that is going to get a lot of the blame, definitely deserves it for the penalties. Way too many hotheads out there. They're too aggressive. Fix those things, and it's early, and I think that this can happen, but I think that, we have a reputation around the league now, and it's not a good one, and it's mostly dirty play, being too aggressive, and, that was highlighted by Tom Coughlin telling his team before the game that, don't worry about, beating the Bills. The Bills will beat themselves by taking too many penalties.
Yeah, the penalties, again, this week, not so much last week, but this week were, I would say, our ultimate undoing. 17 penalties in the game. You can't be doing that kind of stuff. It's just unacceptable. Stephon Gilmore getting pass interference.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
That's a bad one. That hurts. Chris Hogan gets offensive holding. Just a lot of penalties down the line. It seems like we're beating, a dead horse when we say that Jerry Hughes got a personal foul.
He's good for one a game.
It's just, you need to drink some Texas tea and chill out, bro. I understand that it's a heated game. I've played pickup sports, and I'm not getting paid millions of dollars being watched by thousands of people, but I can admit that, obviously you get worked up in the heat of the moment. Things make you mad, and you want to explain how you feel. Maybe you see something that doesn't get called by the referees, so you decide to make a stink about it, and it costs your team 15 yards. It's not what you want to do, but the worst thing, in my opinion, from this whole game is Kyle Williams getting an illegal formation penalty on either the second or the third field goal that they were going to attempt. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was a 9-3 game at this point. The Bills just stopped them after giving up terrible field position. It looked like the Giants were going to be driving in, and they stop them, and it was going to be a 40-something yard field goal. And then the flags go up as they make the field goal. 12-3 game, still early on in the second quarter, and like you said, Kyle Williams getting that penalty. I mean, you've been in the league 10 years. Figure that one out.
And it wasn't even like he jumped the snap or anything like that. He was just lined up wrong. If you do something long enough, arguably one of the best defensive tackles in the league. I mean, he's getting old now, so
but he's still making big plays every game.
He's great.
He shows up.
But the point is when you've been playing the game for that long, you know where you should be, you know what you should be doing, you know the plays that need to be made, and yet it's these little itty-bitty, just minor lapses in judgment and reason that are costing us points, costing us stops of drives, and it even goes back to the New England game, our 2 losses of the season. There were a couple drives in that game where we got stops, and a penalty on third down would give them a first down. Now, it's hard to compare the games. It's not the same idea. It's just penalties have been a reoccurring thing that have been getting us all year long.
Exactly. And in the first game, we had, penalties as well against Indianapolis. It's something that I think the league has stressed to the officials this year to call more penalties, and the average penalties per game is definitely up. But the Bills are just they don't understand. I think that Rex Ryan doesn't really preach disciplining his players. He lets them do what they really want to do, as long as they're having good communication out there, doing what he says to do. But when it comes to the rules of the game, and when they break those rules, he doesn't really care about it. Jerry Hughes, I think that he needs to be sat down for the first quarter of next game. Preston Brown.
Doug Marone over here, everybody.
He's a second-year player. He needs to be sat down for the first quarter of the game. You don't get 2 personal foul penalties in a game, and you definitely don't. When Odell Beckham Jr. punches you in the face, just don't punch him back. You know what's going to happen. The retaliation penalty, just don't do it. Just don't do it.
I hear what you're saying. I totally can't. You can't. Duke Williams, whoever's getting in their thing, discipline them the way they should be. But you can't sit a guy that you just paid obscene amounts of cash in the offseason to play defensive end for you, especially in a game where you're going to come out that you absolutely have to win.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we're playing Tennessee, and that's why.
It doesn't matter. Marcus Mariota looks decent. Bills, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer over here, but the Bills, just like this past week, have a tendency to lose games that we should win.
I think that you're this game here. The thing that pisses me off is that you have a home game at the Ralph 2 straight weeks in a row when the crowd is electric. And, it's really a turning stone for the season. It could be, a march towards the playoffs, a game that we can, win and then go on to win the next 3 and go into the bye on a hot streak. Yet we let it just fall to the cracks of our hands. And, at the end of the day, you sound too depressed right now for me. I think that this game, like I said, is a learning experience, and you play Tennessee next week, and that's an easy game to get. I think that it's going to be a 2-touchdown win. You're playing Eli Manning. That guy's won 2 Super Bowls. You're playing Tom Coughlin. He's won 2 Super Bowls. You know, there's a stat out there. Tom Brady in week 2 got the ball out in 1.99 seconds against the Bills. And that this is the thing right here. Eli Manning yesterday got the ball in 1.76 seconds average. I think that's the way you beat the Bills. You make them have to tackle you, and you see if you can get the yak. And, it worked yesterday, but it didn't really work yesterday. The defense played great. The only one play that sticks out in your mind, and I know you're going to talk about it, is Nigel Bradham missing that tackle. And he had him pinned in, and that would have been a 4th down. And, Tom Coughlin, he's always punting when it's, one of those decisions where, hey, maybe we should, go for it here and win the game. But he would have punted. And, unfortunately, ended up in a 51-yard score.
If this game ends up being something that comes back to bite us at the end of the season, it's far off. I agree. It's only a quarter of the way through the season. We still got another 12 games to go, and I'm definitely not ready to throw myself off the skyway just yet. But if this game comes back, this is going to be the Rashad Jennings game. That's how I'll always remember it. It's like the Bryce Brown game last year. And if you say the Bryce Brown game, you know what game I'm talking about.
Green Bay.
No, sir.
I'm sorry, Kansas City.
Kansas City. And it's just a given. That could even be the Jeff Toole game. The interception on the goal line or the 1-yard line or whatever. It's just we have these games and we get so juiced up on them, and I was ready for action. You can go back and listen to our show last week, and we were both predicting win. We were both predicting an easy win.
By 2 scores.
And, here we are hanging out in the same place we were last week, feeling a lot worse about how we felt about this game last week. And I'm not ready to count anybody out. It's still so early. It's not even funny. I'm pretty sure the Pats got written off last week in week 4 after they got drudged by Kansas City. Maybe that was even week 3, and look what they did. So it's far too early to knock teams off and say this, that, and the other thing. But it's just, I feel like all the years I've been watching the Bills and even playoff teams in general, there's games on the schedule that even if they aren't easy or a toss-up or whatever, if you're going to be that team that gets over the hump and does big things, there's games that you just have to win, and I just feel like this was one of them.
Sure, and I agree with you to a point, but now we just have to win one of those games that we shouldn't win. And I think that you got to look at the schedule here. You have Tennessee next week in Nashville. I think that's the game that we're going to win. I think that Mariota is a rookie quarterback. He doesn't understand the designed blitzes that Rex Ryan throws at him. And I think that this could be a game where, the defense really shows out. Maybe, makes a statement like, hey, we're really good. Don't question us again. After that, you have Cincinnati at home. If we lose 3 home games in a row, this is not a playoff team. How could you do that? You have Ralph Wilson Stadium, the atmosphere electric. The fans come out, Rex Ryan calling them out, saying you're not loud enough. And you lay 2 eggs in a row at home. Not good. Not good. I agree. But it's early. It's very early. And the schedule is favorable.
But you got to take into account, you come out of the bye week, and it's 3 straight division games in a row, 2 of which are on the road.
Ryan Fitzpatrick quarterbacks the Jets.
Look at the Jets right now, though. The Jets are 3-1. I'm not disagreeing.
Who did they beat?
I'm not disagreeing that the Jets aren't good. I'm just saying 3 division games in a row are no good. And we saw what happened when Rex Ryan got all jacked up about New England and the team was playing over angst. They were playing too hard. They were taking bad penalties. Just think of the kind of speeches and sound bites and clips we're going to get leading up to going to the Jets on Thursday night.
Well, thankfully, we only got 4 days for that.
I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. It's just if we're going to get one of those steal games that you're talking about, it's going to have to come in that stretch somewhere.
I don't think that you get a steal game there. I think those are two winnable games against the Gents in Miami. I think that the Patriots on Monday night, that's not going to be a win. You're going to Foxborough. If you come out with that, that's the steal win. I think your steal win is Cincinnati. It's a toss-up at the beginning of the season, but Cincinnati right now looks elite. They look good. They have a great defense and an even better running game. And Andy Dalton is looking like he's coming into his own right now.
They'll still choke.
They'll still choke. It doesn't matter. But in the regular season, they always make it. So, and here's another thing I want to point out. The NFL right now has only 8 teams with a winning record. 8, and it's week 4. So there's only 8 teams that are above 3-1. All the rest of them are 2-2, 1-3, or 0-4. And the only 0-4 team is the Detroit Lions, who play tonight. And I'm sorry, they're 0-3. And that's Monday Night Football, Seattle Seahawks versus the Detroit Lions in Detroit.
That's a loss again.
Sure.
Seattle.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I just want to point that out because the difference in talent in the NFL right now is not much. And I think that the Bills do have the talent. I think if they put it together, they're a new team. They have a new coach, a new offensive coordinator, a new running back, a new tight end, a new quarterback. Just a lot of new personnel. And it is frustrating that the defense who's been the solid core for the last 2 years, isn't doing well. But they did do good. That secondary looked great. Ronald Darby, oh my God, you're killing it, brother. Just keep it up, man.
Absolutely.
Keep it up. Keep it up. Bakari Rambo, that's a question right there. We need Aaron Williams back.
Yeah, but didn't he go down with an injury at the end of the game there, Bakari Rambo? Or was that
yeah. No, they updated him. He's got a quad. Also, Marquise Gray may have broke a bone in his forearm.
Oh man, my biggest issue is after we got that first field goal on either the first or second drive of the game that we had there, we didn't score another point until the fourth quarter. Up until this week against the Giants, we had the 3rd highest scoring offense in the NFL. I understand that it was early, so that's a hard statistic to look at or take. You take that with a grain of salt. But if you're going to be an elite team, you have to score more than 10 points in a game, especially on your own home field.
Definitely. I think that's going to really be dependent on this offensive line. You going into the game, you had John Miller out and Craig Urbick. And Cordy Glenn gets hurt. Central Henderson did not have a good game. That defensive line for the New York Giants, which was so putrid the last couple of weeks, they looked good. And I think that has and another penalty that really sticks out is that Tyrod Taylor had that 41-yard run. I'm glad we're not talking about the quarterback looking terrible. I think that the play calling was the reason why he wasn't doing well in the first couple quarters. But this man, he's got flashes of brilliance in him, and he throws the ball to his tight end. Everybody, remember, Andy's your fantasy football expert here. He picked Charles Clay to go off last week or this week, and he did.
And the week before that, but that's ancient history.
We don't talk about that.
My big issue, the thing that I think was the problem there with Tyrod was, and not for nothing, he obviously has supreme confidence. He plays the game very well. He makes throws. This, that, and the other, all that in a bag of chips. But I think that Charles Clay interception had him a little shook in the beginning of the game. That was a ball Charles Clay had. I think it was Kennard who had that interception.
Yep.
Just ripped the ball out of Charles Clay's hands and took it and got a big turnover while we were playing pretty decent to start the game. And I don't think that really had any long-term effects.
But it did.
But I think it had Tyrod Taylor a little shook, a little bit hesitant to really throw the ball. He hasn't gotten picked off much this year. The Patriots game was a rough go at things, but it got to a point where he was just chalking them up there anyways because we were down 20-some-odd points. I just think that after that interception, he got a little hesitant to throw the ball like he was. I think Rex Ryan and Greg Roman were trying to pack it in. I think that they were too dependent on Carlos Williams. I wanted Carlos Williams to get a big carry, a big load of work this week because I wanted to see what he was really made of.
But they're packing 8 in the box.
And they were still running the ball because I just don't think that they had enough. I feel as if the game was close. So they thought if we can move the ball down the field, run the ball, then maybe we can make something happen. We were sitting there and it's first down run, second down run. Like, that's not what last week against the Dolphins, the first 5 offensive plays of the game were all passes. And we come out and we run second down, throw it on third down, because obviously on third and long, you're going to pass the ball. This isn't Madden where you run a goddamn draw play.
It's infuriating. They're limiting his approach, and then when they let him loose, I mean, the kid makes plays. I mean, geez, that run, I can't get over it, man. That would have been a top 10 play on SportsCenter. Ran through the highlights of his career, that run, but stupid Richie Incognito comes in and hits the defensive lineman when he did not have to, and Cordy Glenn had him blocked, and he negated a touchdown.
That was a horribly weak penalty, though.
Sure, but he did not have to do that. He did not need to go after him at all. Yeah, he hit him in the hip. It was a legal play, but he didn't have to do that, and Richie Incognito did. And when it's Richie Incognito, his reputation around the league is the dirtiest player, still holds true. And, again, we get flagged.
It's just one of those things where you sit back and obviously, we're all couch coaches. We all think that, we know the best course of action and, they should have done this here and they should have done that there. And ultimately, obviously, we're right, but at the same time, we're not completely wrong. I just think that when you like you said, when you let Tyrod Taylor do what Tyrod Taylor does, and you give him the opportunity and the options to go out and do the things that was God gifted to do, he excels and he plays good and he makes good plays and all of the above, everything you want. But it seems like sometimes they're a little too quick to pull back on the reins and not let him do what he's supposed to do. And you see it in the Dolphins game last week. We score on our first 2 drives. The defense is playing down. It was almost like they were like, Tyrod, man, just go out there, do whatever you want. We're taking the training wheels off. Let's have fun. Let's do what we do. Let's put up some points. Let's score. Let's do what we can. And it just seems that when it's good, it's great, and they let them do that. But as soon as things get bad, they're like, whoa, buddy, hold on, pull it back. We're going to go back to ground and pound. And if you're going to win, you have to stick with what wins. And it seems like they just didn't do that yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's it's a little different for Rex because he's used to a team that just runs, and then throws. And we might have a quarterback here that can make the throw, and then hand off to Carlos Williams. But I also wanted to touch on how Sammy Watkins didn't play, and I think that affected the game immensely. He takes the number 1 cornerback, which had been Cromartie, and he takes a safety out of the game. And then you can, things open up. Robert Woods did not getting open. It just seemed like it was not happening for them. At the end there, Percy Harvin, he throws the deep ball. He gets a pass interference and move the drive. It's just frustrating that the special teams looks really weak. I think we have the best punter in the game right now. I'm just going to say that right now. Colton Schmidt is an animal at punting. But Danny Carpenter on the other end, terrible. How do you miss a 30-yard field goal? Yes, you had a 51-yarder. Good for you, but you need to hit that 30-yarder, especially when the momentum was turning. We wrapped the ball down the field. And then the next drive out, we couldn't stuff it in from 4th and 2 when Ruck says, hey, we're just going to run the ball. And he just never did.
Dan Carpenter isn't good because he cut his hair. That's
a hot take.
He doesn't look like Jesus anymore, so he doesn't have superpowers anymore. But not for nothing, it seems almost like every kicker in the NFL sucks this year.
Yeah, you know what? It does seem like that, but
except Kansas City.
Yeah, they got
7 for 7 yesterday. That's
really?
impressive.
7 for 7?
Yeah, the Kansas City kicker was 7 for 7 yesterday. They still lost. But if you knock 7, I think he had 30 fantasy football points yesterday for a kicker. Like, whoever has that guy on their team was probably like, geez, Louise, like this is almost as good as a defense putting up a lot of points.
It's the Alex Smith effect.
For real. I mean, I digress on that, but it seems like every kicker in the NFL this year, it's like they read the new rule and they're shook or something. I just don't. Josh Scobie, man, good luck finding a job, my friend.
Yeah, there's nothing out there. The benches are depleted. Why can't I go back in time and learn how to kick when I was a kid, and then I'd have a job making $1 million a year?
Because you would have read the new rules and got shitty just like every kicker does now. It's unbelievable. I've never. It's just craziness. I mean, ultimately though, in that situation, weren't we perfect in the red zone on touchdowns up until this week, or
Yeah,
damn
well,
near?
no, we were like 6 out of 8 for touchdowns compared to field goals, and we were 8 out of 8 for getting points away. Now we're 8 out of 10, or however you want to do it. I don't know if we made it in, when our touchdown was in the red zone or not. But enough about freaking kicking. You know what I mean? Why don't we grade them real quick, and then we'll hit the other scores around the league, and then get into next week's preview. We're on the All Western New York Radio. Again, the number is 716-402-4218. 716-402-4218. You're welcome to call in, talk to Cookie and Kev. We're here for another half hour, talking how terrible of a game this was this past week for the Buffalo Bills, and also talking other sports as well as scores around the league.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, it hurts to even think about this game anymore, talk about this game, but that's what we do. But sweeten to the point, I'm just going to give this whole game overall a C+ in every facet of the game. The defense did play great, but it's an average. If the defense was an A, and the offense the offense was like a C-. Defense A, special teams -F. Like, it's one of those things where I don't even. It's a rough go at things. Everything about me at a loss for words, even still trying to think about this game, because I don't even want to think about it. In the words of beating Bill Belichick, we're on to Tennessee.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to approach this a different way. We lost. Again, we're 2-2. The season's not over. I think that people had way too much expectations. Even I did. I can't lie. It is a little bit disappointing, but I'm not too worried, man. It's just a loss. It's week 4, and it's against the NFC opponent. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are 2-2, and we have the last wild card spot right now locked down because we're 2-1 in the AFC, and that's the most important thing. Now we go into Tennessee, we can be 3-3. I'm sorry, 3-2. But I'll grade my team. I think the offense, I think the play calling was poor. I think they were going to give him a C. There's flashes of brilliance. Special teams, I think that was a bad grade. That's a D. I mean, the only good thing was maybe Marcus Easley doing a great special teams tackle, and then Colton Schmidt just really, making their field position tough in the second half. And on the defense, they're going to get a C-. But, the reason is the penalties. I think that they played a great game. I think that the only thing that they messed up on was that missed tackle by Nigel Bradham. And Bakari Rambo on the 2 touchdown passes, he missed coverage. And, I think that deals with, we need Aaron Williams back. But, we didn't get enough pressure on the quarterback, but you're not going to when he gets it out within 1.7 seconds. I think they did really good, man. Just the penalties. If you fix the penalties, you fix this team. And, because they have a guy like Kyle Williams, they have a guy like Mario Williams, who, people look up to in that locker room. I don't think Stephon Gilmore's a leader. I think he's too quiet. But, whatever, But I think that a guy like Kyle Williams needs to, take Jerry Hughes and tell him, hey, man, you got that deal. You need to step up and be a vet. Stop acting childish. And, maybe Jerry Hughes can take Preston Brown under his wing and tell him, bro, chill out. I think they're feeding off each other, and it's not good. And hopefully the media woke them up today, because Rex looked like a dumbass in his post game interview.
I agree. It's just it's hard for me to not. The Bills, they just affect my overall mood. It's a Monday. Nobody likes Mondays. Got to go back to work. Got to, get back into the winding grind of things, spend some time at the Ralph, have a few adult beverages.
I have too many adult beverages.
Far too many adult beverages. But it's just, my Monday and Tuesdays are just shot, because it's just, come on, Bills, you could have done a little bit better. We could have done this. We could have done that. But Buffalo, we always love you. We always will. But it's time to move on. We're past this. Like I said, we're on to Tennessee.
We're on to Tennessee.
And hopefully next week will be a lot more joyous and ready for action. But
And Andy, I think it will be. I think that you just gotta, step back a minute and think. We're playing a rookie quarterback. We'll get into this game coming up. Why don't we hit up Miami, New York Jets in England? Because something big happened today, and it was a direct result of how one team's performance so far has just been not up to expectations.
we'll go across the pond for this one, and
Put on your British accent.
I don't have a British accent, but if only we had tea. I'm drinking coffee right now. Big shouts out Tim Hortons for your delicious iced coffee. A little too much ice in this one, but not everybody makes it perfect. Beggars can't be choosers. But Dolphins, man, I'm never happier to see a team lose than I am when I see the Dolphins lose. And Joe Philbin, good luck getting a job anywhere else, my man. I mean, I'm sure Division II Mississippi Valley State maybe needs a coach or something, but you've spent all that money in the off season and you just come out flat. The best record you had as a coach of the Dolphins was 8-8 through the whole time that you were there. No playoff appearances. And this was a team before the season started that everybody was picking to pop out. They just got Sue. The defensive line is nice. They got good cornerbacks. Tannehill's ready to make the leap. This, that, and the other thing. And
John Clayton was basically creaming his pants over Tannehill.
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And it's just
he looked good in the offseason. He looked great in training camp.
yeah, and then Joe Philbin gets canned, and then they had the report come out today about Tannehill getting picked off by practice squatters in practice and getting all pissed off about it and asking them if they're going to enjoy their practice squad paycheck. And it comes back around that Joe Philbin was telling him to take it easy on Tannehill, to not shake his confidence. You're going to tell me that you have a ready to jump to elite quarterback in the NFL getting picked off and shook by practice squad players having to chirp him about paychecks?
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into it. Just what happens, when a coach is fired and when the media can just take something and run with it. But I would like to say, and I said it on this this show before. I always said Miami's not a good team, and they remind me of those Bills when we just got Mario Williams. You go out and you get a big man, the biggest ticket item in free agency, but you don't shore up other positions. And yeah, they had a good secondary. It's not showing up right now. And the New York Jets. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he looks good. He looks good. I can't blame him, but the big thing I want to say about the Jets is my man's Chris Ivory went off. And Andy, you were talking mad game about him last week, and he went off. He went off. He went off.
It doesn't matter. He's still a bum.
Over 150 yards, on the day.
CJ Spiller caught an 80-yard touchdown pass yesterday, and he's still a bum.
Oh yeah, that's definitely 100%. So what this means for the division, the Jets are 3-1. I'm not worried about the Jets. They have a great defense, a good running game, but they have Ryan Fitzpatrick, and we know Ryan Fitzpatrick after about week 7 just falls apart.
He'll get a payday and then disappear.
Exactly. Now, on the other hand, the Miami Dolphins are done. You lose your coach, you lose your defensive coordinator. Now you have an interim coach come in, and he's just trying to piece it together. The Bills had something similar with Perry Fuel. He came in, as the interim coach after Dick Duran was fired. And, we ended up going 7-9. The team might fight back for him for a couple games, but, I think Miami's done.
Look out, Chicago. You got to race for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, but who's better, Jay Cutler or Ryan Tannehill?
Flip a coin.
All right, let's hit up another game, Cookie.
All right, I'm about that. So Atlanta, Houston. Atlanta, the darlings of the NFL right now, I would say. Coming into the season, if I had to rank teams there in the NFC South, I don't think that the Atlanta Falcons would have been very high on my list, but Tevin Coleman goes down with an injury and as many touches and helping the touches get split up, and Devontae Freeman looks like an absolute stud. I was banking on the fact that was a one-hit wonder last week because had to face him in fantasy football this week, and there he goes again, 3 touchdowns. Just looks like he's got a nose for the end zone. Their defense is playing fantastic right now there. There was a point in the game where they were up 42-0. Houston got all their points in the fourth quarter in what I would assume to be garbage time. Atlanta, 4-0, one of 5 undefeated teams in the league right now. You would expect a couple of the other ones, Pat's undefeated, okay. Green Bay undefeated. What else is news? I mean, Atlanta, there you go. I mean, Cincinnati's undefeated, but it's just they're playing really good football right now, and it's hard not to, have a little bit of love for them.
Yeah, they're impressive. I definitely will say that. I just don't like them because their fans aren't that great. They're like the worst fans in the NFL. I mean, they're up there, man. They're fans in the NFL. Like you said, Freeman looked awesome. 3 touchdowns again. He's really doing well.
Julio Jones had his worst game of probably the last 10
right,
years.
and they still put up 48 points. How does that happen?
When you got a running back who just finds the end zone.
Right, and the defense looks good.
And he's still splitting carries with Ward. Like, it's not like he's getting a boatload of carries or anything. It's just with Tevin Coleman out and not like a weird 3 running back rotation thing that they were working with. It looks like he's really starting to, thrive in that spot. It's more funny, if anything, that Houston went back to Ryan Mallett after ditching Hoyer for Mallett, then going back to Hoyer, and then now they're back at Ryan Mallett again. I think every week at practice they play musical chairs, and whoever wins the game of musical chairs gets to play starting quarterback.
Right.
That team's an absolute shambles.
Oh yeah, and I mean, here's the thing: everybody picked them to be the wild card. They were one of those teams that like, oh, they look good. All they need is a quarterback to show up. Well, Ryan Mallett looks terrible. Going forward, that team, they have J.J. Watt, and then that's really it. I mean,
don't forget about DeAndre Hopkins.
Sure, DeAndre Hopkins. Did he come back? I don't even know if he did.
Foster had 8 carries for 10 yards.
Okay, yeah, he's poopy cocks now. Again, it's Houston, and I don't care. I don't care. Let's go on to another one.
All right. I mean, Oakland, Chicago. Oakland, you pulled the Buffalo Bills this week and lost a game that you probably should have won.
Oh, man, Oakland was all hyped up, man. They were so hyped up, man.
Amari Cooper is still good, though. Amari Cooper is still playing fantastic. Chicago did get Jay Cutler back, and they did only win on a field goal at the end of the game, I believe. But I got love for you. I got no hatred towards Oakland. I mean, they're way out there on the West Coast, and we play them once every 4 years if we're lucky.
Right, and we lost to him last year. But, no, I respect it, man. And they got Khalil Mack, UB product. We're over here at UB South, and he's still representing us, baby.
All day. Probably the best player to come out. Him and James Starks holding it down for UB in the NFL, and we love it.
Sure, and, it kind of sucks. You want them to win. You know that they're not going to make the playoffs, but if they made a push, it'd be pretty cool if they weren't, affecting how the Bills were going to make it. But, Jack Del Rio, I always liked him as a coach. Whatever. Chicago, one of those games early on where they're going to win, but, in a couple weeks, everybody in Chicago on that team is just going to fall apart, and, we'll see what goes on.
That defense is so bad. The Bears used to pride themselves on defense. Them and the Steelers, it's a crazy thing to think that Chicago and Pittsburgh used to be like scary defense, win games and push through. And now both of their defenses are, they need to find the life alert button because things aren't going hot.
Right. Well, I guess what happens is they move to the offense, and Pittsburgh's lucky they have Ben Roethlisberger, but
not right now.
Well, not right now, but they have him as a quarterback, for the future. And Jay Cutler didn't really work out like that. Now what's going on? I think that this is going to be a team that I am surprised isn't doing well, and that's Kansas City. And I think that really falls on the shoulders of Alex Smith. I think that his averageness has really just become below average now. I think defenses know how to stop him. And like you said, their kicker went 7 for 7. Is that correct, Andy? They had 21 points, only off their kicker. And Cincinnati looks really good. I think it's New England. I think it's Cincinnati, and I think it's them two at the top right now in the AFC. And I think it by a wide margin.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. It's a rough thing, but yes, it was Santos, their kicker, was 7 for 7. All of their scores were on field goals, which is probably the most depressing thing I've ever heard. They had 21 points all on field goals, and the Bills only scored 10. They've thrown like 2 touchdown passes, 1 touchdown pass to a wide receiver in like 2.5 years and 21 points. Cincinnati just playing absolutely ridiculous football right now.
Their defense is just so good.
Their defense is fantastic. Gio Bernard and Jeremy Hill are both crushing it. They're both running fantastically. Andy Dalton is playing pretty good mistake-free football. He only threw 1 touchdown yesterday, but no interceptions. Still had 321 yards passing. AJ Green, Tyler Eifert is really good this year. He's starting to break out this season. It's just Cincinnati is looking really, really can keep it up. Who really knows? The sky's the limit. They may very well come to Buffalo undefeated. And I mean, we're just gonna have to see how that one goes. It's gonna be nice, but another team, like you were saying, disappointment. Indianapolis Colts. Who'd have thought Matt Hasselbeck would have got a victory in his age? What's he, 40 years old?
Yeah, he's up there, man. And, he did perform to how you'd expect. He wasn't anything great. And I think that Jacksonville really let up, man. They're just not good.
Yeah, Jacksonville's no boy.
You're going in a division opponent, and you're getting lucky because, they're going to have Andrew Luck in there for the next 10 years, and they're going to play him twice a year. And this year, they only get to play him once, because Andrew Luck's hurt. And, they can't even take advantage of that. And that kind of reminds me of when Matt Castle was with the New England Patriots. We lost to him twice.
That's what I'm saying. And the thing that surprises me is it's not like Jacksonville played like a horrible game. I mean, the score doesn't look very good, and it's, so-and-so, but Blake Bortles had almost 300 passing yards. TJ Yeldon had over 100 yards on the ground. They were spreading the ball good to their wide receivers. It's just Jacksonville. It's just a rough go at things. I can remember, Jacksonville used to be pretty decent back in the day.
Yeah, Burnell, and then they had
David.
Yeah, Byron Leftwich.
No.
David Garrard.
Yeah, Garrard. That was their guy. They went to the playoffs when they had MJD straight beast mode. MJD was the original beast mode, I believe.
Yeah.
Obviously Marshawn beast
better
mode.
Person too.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Marshawn's turned his act up a little bit, but
yeah, sure. Well, I wanted to get to a point here. You said that Cincinnati might come in undefeated. They play Seattle at home this coming Sunday at 1:00. That's a big game right there. That's going to be a big ticket item on CBS Sports, and that's going to be a nice one to watch there.
Absolutely. Now, to move on from two teams that are very upsetting, that are not playing very well, to another darling of the NFL, the undefeated Carolina Panthers. Yeah, they dispatched Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston looks like, oh my goodness, he looks absolutely horrible.
4 interceptions.
It looks like he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with the football. You got Mike Evans out there, 6'5", athletic freak, can jump out the gym, I'm sure. And he just can't seem to get him the ball. 4 interceptions, man. I wonder if all the fans there in Tampa Bay are sitting back like, what did we do? It's a different sport, but we'll get into it in the upcoming weeks when it starts. But this might be a KD and what's his name? Friggin', see how relevant he is to me now. But Portland passed up on KD.
Yeah, Brandon Roy, right?
No, the center, Greg Oden.
Oh, Greg Oden.
Greg Oden over KD.
Buffalo, calm down.
Whatever, man. It doesn't matter to me.
No, definitely. But no, I wanted to just touch on Doug Martin. He looks like he's back. Working a little bit good. He got over 100 yards. And Carolina, Cam Newton looks really good. I think he's a top level quarterback right now.
He's not old enough though.
Say it one more time.
He's not old enough though.
Oh yeah, with Hockley.
Yeah, he's not old enough. He might be good, but he's not old enough.
Sure, but they do look good. That defense looks really good. But you're playing Tampa Bay. I mean, God, you get such a freaking lucky schedule if you're in the NFC South. You have New Orleans, who looks terrible, who could barely beat the Cowboys with Brandon Weeden. You have Tampa Bay, and everybody else in the NFC South sucks. So I can't even remember who it is.
The NFC South is not a good division in football at all. It's It's a rough go at things.
So let's go out to Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, oh, he's the greatest coach of all time, and you lose to Kirk Cousins and the Washington Redskins.
Dream team.
Yeah, they look terrible, and we both called it here. We were saying they do not look like a good team. You get rid of Jeremy Maclin, you get rid of you get rid of LaShawn McCoy. Yeah, you bring in DeMarco Murray. We didn't think he was going to take a shit, but he has.
He has 29 carries all season.
Yeah, unbelievable.
He's played 3 out of 4 games. This man is averaging less than 9 carries a frigging game right now. You got a guy who last season at this point, I believe, had just north of 100 carries and 500 and change rushing yards. And right now, he has 29 carries and probably not even 100 total rushing yards. You want to talk about being an offensive genius, about being a guy who puts points on the board, who knows what to do, who knows what plays to call, and you're not even handing the ball off to a guy who was consensus best offensive player in the season, best offensive player in the NFL last year. It's unbelievable. Maybe it was the Cowboys' offensive line. Maybe he fell off. Maybe who really knows? But Chip Kelly really is laying an egg down there.
And it comes to find out that they had a chance to get Tyrod Taylor in the offseason. I don't know if you saw this story, but Tyrod Taylor was planning on going to the Eagles.
He wanted to go there.
He wanted to go there. But, ended up happening was that Denver offered him a contract. He turned that down, went to Buffalo because Chip Kelly decided to go pick up Tim Tebow instead.
Who they then subsequently ended up cutting. But, hey, Chip Kelly's a genius, so we'll let him roll with that. It's
shout out to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I mean, shout out Kirk Cousins. You're not RG3, so I like you. It's just one of those things.
Now let's head out to Cleveland, San Diego. I think it's the most entertaining game of the day, by far. A crazy finish there. San Diego wins by a field goal. Cleveland does a last-second drive. McCown looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, he looked really good actually. And Travis Benjamin showed up.
Yeah, that's par for the course, it seems like, with the exception of, I believe, last week. Travis Benjamin is very nice. Him and Johnny Football seem to have a nice connection, but for whatever the powers that be in Cleveland just aren't really willing to. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Johnny Football is nice. I personally don't like the attitude or stigma that he comes along with, but I just think that you got to go with a hot hand, and he looked pretty halfway decent, but that's about all the Cleveland association I want to really ever have.
Right. So we'll move on to San Diego, and Philip Rivers just looks awesome. I love that guy.
We already did the San Diego game.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that, I wanted to talk about Philip Rivers and how good he looked, and Danny Woodhead. That's a fantasy nightmare right there if you're facing him because, he has the receiving yards and he has the rushing yards. But, yeah, we'll move on from that.
Arizona, St. Louis. St. Louis always shows up against division teams. St. Louis has an app to just screw the pooch, but then they come out week 1, beat Seattle, big game for them, and then Arizona Cardinals undefeated, looking top tier in the league. Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald looked like they hopped in a time machine and popped out in 2006, and they were playing great football. Their defense is solid. Tyrann Mathieu, that guy, don't ever forget, children, smoking marijuana is bad for you. Shouldn't do it. But this guy got crucified for smoking, for, being late to practices, this, that, and the other thing. Falls in the draft and looks like in the next couple of years, even now, he can be one of the elite safeties in the league. And I like a story like this. I like a guy who comes from, people hating on him and not giving him the time of day to standing out. But it wasn't enough. St. Louis gets the win, and Todd Gurley, welcome back. You looked really good, man.
Yeah, well, freaking welcome too. He looked really awesome. Good for him, and good for St. Louis for taking a chance on this guy. Tavon Austin, 2 touchdowns, really, really, really good. And, that's exciting to see. Disappointing for Arizona. I still think they're really good. Carson Palmer finally loses a game. St. Louis, like you said, they show up, and you have Jeff Fisher for coaching you. Your team's not going to have quit, and your defense is going to be solid, especially when you have Aaron Donald up there in the middle clogging it up.
Yeah, it's a rough go, I think, but they got another, 12 weeks to go. I think that they're going to be just fine. St. Louis, on the other hand, I have not much to really think on account of how they're going to do, but
So we'll switch over to Minnesota, and Bridgewater gets sacked 7 times.
that's
They only lose by 3.
Yeah, they'd only lose by 3. And Adrian Peterson had a beautiful touchdown run in that game. I think he went 48 yards and nobody even touched him. Adrian Peterson is always good. There's not a time you can count him out.
5.1 yards per carry.
That's fantastic. AP, good guy. Got a bad rap for disciplining his child, how he felt fit. But now he's back. Now he's running the ball. He didn't have a good first couple weeks because Norv Turner is. I'll never understand Norv Turner, but
yeah, sure.
That's besides the point.
And Peyton Manning throws 2 interceptions on the day and barely gets over 200 yards passing on 17 attempts.
And they still haven't lost.
Still haven't lost, and that really goes to the defense. 7 sacks, most sacks in the league right now, and they look freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm. What happened to all the Bills sacks?
I do want to say that the teams are getting the ball out early, and Rex Ryan has always been in the middle or below in sacks because in interceptions. His defense is predicated on getting off the field and making teams punt, not turning it over and getting sacks. We did make them punt a ton last night, and unfortunately, it didn't end up in a win.
And probably one of the slowest games you'll see out of Aaron Rodgers this week. They still get a victory, but they were playing the abysmal San Francisco 49ers, so that isn't really much of a surprise. He still does his thing. Aaron Rodgers is probably the best quarterback in the league right now. Probably has been for the last year or so. And Green Bay keeps on with their winning ways, just keeps on chugging along. And it's going to be hard to stop them. They look like the NFC team to beat, especially with Dallas being so banged up. And Seattle looks not as great as they used to be. So it'll be interesting to see how that rolls. But Green Bay with another victory.
Yeah, and you can't fault Aaron Rodgers and what he does week in and week out. Playing on Monday and back on 6 days rest, and that defense looks pretty good. Green Bay, I think, is the team to beat. I think right now in the NFL, there's 4 elite teams. I'm gonna throw Arizona in there. Yeah, they lost to St. Louis. It's a tough game, but I also want to throw Cincinnati, New England, and Green Bay. And I think those are the 4 teams to beat. And then beyond that, the talent level just, falls. But I think that the Bills have good skill players at skill positions, and they're going to move up the ladder. And hopefully that happens going forward. Cook, why don't we go review this game coming up in Nashville?
Just real quick. Dallas, New Orleans, last night.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever about that game, it's hard to even really talk about Dallas because they're down their 2 best players. But on another horrible stroke of luck for them, they lose Joseph now with a torn ACL.
Oh, really? When did that come down?
Just earlier. I mean, he left the game early last night, but they finally confirmed that he is getting surgery to repair a torn ACL. Joseph Randle was basically holding that team together with the loss of their other 2 best offensive players. He was looking like a stud. To lose him too, it's going to be a really, really rough go at things. They did say that they might expect Dez Bryant back by week 7, but that is a very optimistic go for that injury, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. I think the NFC East is terrible. I think you got Washington, and you actually make the playoffs and win the division.
They did win the Super Bowl at 9-7.
Yeah, and they were both
times.
wild card too. They weren't even the NFC East champions.
But yeah, like you said, Kev, Diddy, we'll hop on to next week before we wrap it up tonight. We'll talk about next week's game quick. In Tennessee, Nashville. Every time we play Tennessee, all I can think about is Dyson.
I think that the NFL did this on purpose. They schedule the New York Giants wide right, and they schedule the Tennessee Titans right in a row.
But how come they couldn't schedule Dallas right after that then? Because then we could get that easy W without Tony Romo and Dez Bryant and all that stuff.
I know.
And then give us Washington right after that. That would have been sweet. I would have taken that. That would have been decent. It would have been a nice little revenge parade, perhaps. We didn't get it against the Giants, but, whatever. We're past that now. But Tennessee, it's hard to say, win, because that's what I was doing last week. I was all about it. I was like, the Giants, yeah, okay, good luck, buddy. But here we are on a day after a Giants loss. I mean, I still think we're going to beat Tennessee, but I have to be reserved in my, yeah, Tennessee's going down, buddy.
No, they are, though. They have a rookie quarterback. Their defense is suspect, and
But the Giants had the 31st ranked pass defense going into yesterday.
Sure, but I think that was their scheme. They switched up. They realized what they had to do. They had to send the pressure. And they weren't even getting to Tyrod too much. Yeah, he was moving around the pocket, but, I mean, it was mostly our offensive line is just terrible. Central Henderson was letting Wynn just go right up the middle and just make plays here and there the whole game.
Yeah, it was a rough go at things. It's in the past now, thankfully. We don't have to worry about the Giants again. But Tennessee, I don't see a problem with this game. I said the same thing last week. You could probably listen to the show, and I'm probably quoting myself all over again. But I just don't think we can lose to Tennessee. If we lose to Tennessee, meet me on the Skyway, and we're jumping. We're hitting up the Skyway. We're holding up Bills flags. We're all going to get our Tyrod Taylor jerseys on, and we're going to throw on our Shady McCoy jerseys, and I am nosediving off the Skyway. You can meet me there, and we'll all do it together, because if we lose to Tennessee, I swear, if we're 2-3 and we have to come home and play Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's still hot, I'm going to be a nervous wreck. You'll catch me at the Bills game with a bottle of Jägermeister to the face, ready to go, because there's no way I'll be able to sit through that game thinking if we lose, we're going to be 2-4. If the Bills are 2-4 2 weeks from right now, I swear you will not hear from me anymore. I'll be in a catatonic state, and Tennessee, we're coming for you. I swear, if we lose this game, meet me at the Skyway, because we're going.
All right. Well, that's a Cookie and Kev show for tonight. I'm gonna give Cook a towel and tell him to wipe himself off after that one.
I'm sweating over here.
Yeah.
It's Tennessee, man. It's not happening. Not a chance. Marcus Martin, no. I can't even entertain the thought in my brain of losing to Tennessee, because if we do,
the season's over if we do. I fully agree with you. I think that just how slippery might the slope be if we do lose to Tennessee. But I don't think we will. I think they're going to come out. We're going to win. We'll go 3-2. We'll see what happens in Cincinnati, and then you're going to hit the bye right before you go to London.
No, it's right after.
I'm sorry, prior to going to London, right? And we might be 4-3 going to the bye.
That'll keep me off the Skyway. But if we lose Sunday, you know where to find me. Cookie, Kev, Sports Hour. We'll see you next week. Unless we lose, you'll see me on the Skyway.